everyone. I am Rick Bird, Senior Planner for Brooklyn Borough Presidents 2020.
This uniform land use review procedure public hearing is being conducted from the Brooklyn Borough Hall courtroom. Please note that this hearing is being streamed via WebEx and recorded to comply with the open meetings law. The video will later be posted on the Brooklyn Borough Presidents YouTube channel. We have 3 items on the agenda this evening. Following each applicant's presentation and any questions from the chair, members of the public who are in attendance tonight will be invited to testify on the applications. All comments are limited to 2 minutes. While this meeting is being live streamed, we do not accept virtual testimony. Members of the public may also submit comments to testimony@brooklynbp.nyc.gov for the Borough President's consideration until Friday, January 17th. Please call the first item.
Calendar item number 1, 2510 Coney Island Avenue rezoning, ULURP numbers C2301, 287ZMK, and N230129ZRK, a private application by 2510 CIA LLC proposing a zoning map amendment from R4 Ocean Parkway District and C81 Ocean Parkway District to R7D with a C24 overlay in the Ocean Park Special District, and a zoning text amendment to map a mandatory inclusionary housing area to facilitate a new 11-story, approximately 61,000 square foot mixed-use development containing approximately 55,000 square feet of residential space with 60 dwelling units and approximately 6,400 square feet of commercial space at 2510 Coney Island Avenue in Sheepshead Bay, Community District 15, Brooklyn. On December 16th, 2024, CB 15 issued an unfavorable recommendation for this application. Please state your name and present this application.
Good evening. Thank you for having us here. Richard Lobel of Sheldon Lobel PC for the applicant 2510 CIA LLC. So thank you. I'm going to give a presentation, start out with the land use rationale and talk about the specifics of the proposed development. With me tonight from the applicant team, Daniel Brinstein, the member of 2510 CIA LLC, Yuri Menzak, the project architect, Kevin Williams from GZA, the environmental consultant, and Fan Baton from my office. So the application is for a proposed rezoning, which would rezone 4 lots and portions of 2 other lots, including the development site within Sheepshead Bay, from an existing R4 and C81 zoning district to an R70 C24 zoning district. The applicant will also, as with such applications, seek a text amendment to allow for the establishment of MIH with options 1 and 2. This would facilitate the development of the applicant's development site with a new 8-story, roughly 61,200 square foot mixed-use building with commercial use on the ground floor and approximately 35 dwelling units. This would also include roughly 10 mandatory inclusionary housing or income-restricted units, and the proposed development would also provide roughly 35 parking spaces. I include a sheet which demonstrates the revised proposal. So both the original proposal and the modified proposal are permitted pursuant to the proposed R70 C24 zoning. However, in conjunction with discussions with members of the community board, and indeed after having attended several land use hearings at County Board 15, the height of the building was taken down from 11 stories to 8 stories. This was because many people noted the height of the building was tall for this area. There are other 6 to 8 story buildings within the area of the premises, in addition to which the regulations of the City of Yes allows for a reduction in the height of the building, so the applicant is happy to see that. The floor area largely remains the same, but again, in conjunction with discussions with members of the community, the dwelling units originally proposed at 60 were reduced to 35, and the parking spaces were increased from 24 to 35, resulting in a 1-for-1 ratio of parking spaces to units, something which Community Board 15 has asked for in the past and indeed asked for in this application. The next several slides are maps, including the zoning map. You can see this area Coney Island Avenue. Again, the existing districts R4 and C81 districts. C81 districts being relatively challenging districts in terms of new development. First of all, not permitting residential as of right, and second of all, with a low FAR and inability to do residential, these are mostly used for auto-related uses. Indeed, a portion of this site was used for a used car lot until this past summer. The next slide is the tax map, which shows the exact area highlighted in red of the development site, as well as the area within the dotted lines, which would be the proposed rezoning area. The next slide is the area map, which I think really well establishes why it is entirely appropriate to allow for rezoning of this site with an R7D C24 district. We know Coney Island Avenue here. Coney Island Avenue, not merely a wide street, but an extra wide street as per zoning. Also, the rezoning area borders on Avenue V, a wide street. So the opportunity here to allow for a residential district which borders on two wide streets, one extra wide street within Brooklyn, is consistent with past applications that have been approved by city planning, as well as ones which have been approved by this office. We also note several subway stops located within a half mile of the property and bus service along Coney Island Avenue. So frankly, this is a transit-rich area, and this is going to allow us to take what amounts to be a very unproductive site, an underdeveloped site, and allow for residential units here, and importantly, affordable housing, which is a tremendous goal of the city, of city planning, and of the Brooklyn Borough President. This slide, next slide, demonstrates the actual zoning change map again. The R7D here, R7D having been mapped before both within Brooklyn Community Board 15, as well as in past applications in Brooklyn generally. We note Myrtle Avenue recently had 703, 712 Myrtle Avenue, both of which allowed for R7D districts. The difference, of course, being that those districts were mapped on 75-foot wide streets with narrow side streets. So the opportunity here to map this district on an extra wide street and bordering two wide streets is indeed totally appropriate. We note several pictures of the subject site. You can see the existing underdeveloped and undeveloped condition of the site. Indeed, the C8 district lending itself to these auto-related uses, not particularly productive either in terms of general use, job generation, or residential units. And then, just in the interest of time, while the project architect Yuri is here, we would just briefly note on the plans the lower level allowing for parking at the site, as well as the floors above. Again, the building rising to 8 stories. And I just want to make one last comment with regards to the units. Again, upon conversation with the community board, this project was amended several times, most recently to allow for a unit mix which provided roughly 26 3-bedroom units out of a total of 35 units. This would achieve a ratio of 26 out of 35, or close to 75% of the units created can be 3 bedrooms. This is, in my practice in the last 20 years, unprecedented, allowing for not only less rigorous utilization of the site, larger family sizes, less individuals traveling to and from the site, particularly when compared to both the existing use of the site and potential uses of the site, which would allow for roughly 13, 14, 15,000 square foot community facility building. The proposed use here allowing for residential use, generous unit sizes geared towards families, and a less intensive use of the site than what might be available as of right, I think really sets the tone and provides a very solid rationale for approval of the subject rezoning. And with that, the entire applicant team is happy to answer questions.
Thank you for the presentation. We do have a few questions for the team. The first one you just touched on briefly, but what is the updated breakdown of unit sizes for both the affordable and market rate units?
Sure. So with regards to the unit sizes, generally we have 8 1-bedrooms, 1 2-bedroom, and 26 3-bedrooms. So over 75% of the units at 1 to 2 to 3 bedrooms, no studio apartments within the units. And the unit sizes, the average unit size in terms of square footage, 706 square feet for the 1-bedroom, 1,251 square feet for the 2-bedroom, and a full 1,300 to 1,684 for the 3-bedrooms. We would further note that as pursuant to the regulations of mandatory inclusionary housing, which are contained and in the text of the zoning resolution, the affordable units would be not only located throughout the building as is required by the regulations in MIH, but also would provide for the same breakdown of affordable units as to the units in the building generally. in short, this means that the affordable units here, a full 75% of the affordable units will be 3-bedroom or above. This is, just provides just wonderfully large units for a segment of the population which does not typically benefit from this type of family size units, and so we're really thrilled to bring this project to the Brooklyn Borough President.
Thank you. Have tenants or uses for the ground floor commercial space been identified?
So, given the duration of ULURP here, we haven't specifically entered into any agreements. We have had several conversations. Again, this was done in conjunction with conversations with the community board. We wanted to be open and honest about our willingness to allow for a range of commercial and community facility uses at the site. We've spoken to public facilities, libraries. We spoke to several kosher establishments, given the large population in the area. So we have not yet identified a user yet. What we would note, though, again, as far as the appropriateness of the R70C24 here, is that the R70C24 are fairly unique in zoning as requiring, mandating non-residential ground floor units. So given the fact that this is a major thoroughfare at 100 feet wide and the commercial presence on much of the thoroughfare, the R70C24 would require that the use on the ground floor be primarily devoted to a commercial or community facility use. Again, entirely appropriate and even desirable in order to create a lively streetscape.
Thank you. How does the expanded parking affect the cost of the project? Is there another cellar level being added or stackers?
So we are excavating deeper in order to provide stackers. This is done at an extra cost to the building. Preliminary estimates are, without being too specific, upwards of $750,000 or greater. And we did this specifically with the community in mind, given the nature of our conversations with the community and the desire for one-to-one ratio for parking to residential units.
Thank you. And final question, will residential parking spaces be leased separately or included in every apartment lease? So
as per regulations, they would be made available to tenants of the building on a right of first refusal basis, but it is intended that there would be a separate operator for the garage space and that the spaces would be leased separately. As per zoning, we would be required to have an attendant for the parking area, and so they would be leased separately pursuant to that arrangement.
Thank you. Panel is excused.
Thank you so much.
We will now call for testimony on this application from members of the public in attendance tonight. Please note that all comments are limited to 2 minutes.
First, we have Teresa Scavo, followed by Ronald Tallow.
Good evening. I'm Teresa Scavo, chairperson of Community Board 15 Brooklyn. I am here tonight to oppose the upzoning of Block 7158, lots 2500, 2508, 2510, 2520, 2524 Coney Island Avenue, as well as 826 Avenue B. In the words of the applicant, Richard, I hate to throw in your face, but in the words of the applicant, the majority of Block 7159 fronting Coney Island Avenue is improved with 1 to 3-story residential and commercial buildings. Not 12 stories, not 11. This is the neighborhood we live in and the community we're choosing to live in. We don't want to destroy the character that we have remaining in our community. First of all, I'm not sure of the amount of stories in this building. At the original zoning committee meeting, we were told 11 stories. At the next committee meeting, we were told 10 stories. At the general board meeting in December, all of a sudden it was 8 stories, yet city planning has already told us it will be 12 stories. In all the discussions, I have not heard about remediation. For as long as I can remember, that was a used car lot that did automotive repairs on site. If we allow the upzoning of this piece of property to be developed, Coney Island Avenue will start to look like a cave. We are already facing issues with traffic, congestion, parking. We cannot allow further development to exacerbate the issues. Okay, got it. Thank you.
Next we have Ronald Powell.
My name is Ronald Powell. I'm first vice chair committee board 15, as well as chairman of the zoning and variance committee of CB 15. My background is I'm a graduate architect. I don't practice anymore, but I worked as a volunteer on 12 to 15 buildings as a non-for-profits within the area, so I'm very familiar with building and zoning. I'm a volunteer, as Teresa is, no pay, no agenda. We have been for 20 years or more shepherds of our area to make sure that we maintain the delicate balance between commercial and residential occupancy. I happen to be also co-chair of the Sephardic Community Federation, and that represents a series of Sephardic Jews living in Gravesend, Homecrest, Midwood, East Midwood, approximately 50,000 representatives that we advocate for non-for-profit as well as social issues and political issues. Our community has 12 to 15 yeshivas. YDE Yeshiva is the fastest growing yeshiva in our community, which is directly sited across the street from the development. They have 15 to 1,800 students on 3 or 4 different campuses. About 1,000 students are just across the street of all ages, from preschool and up, starting at 7 in the morning till about 10 o'clock at night. We have many complaints that we heard from neighbors. The yeshiva community is concerned, and Chase Bank also might go to the wayside if they allow this rezoning. Coney Island Avenue is a commercial corridor, not residential. It was never intended as a residential strip. The fear is that this will spread to other properties along Coney Island Avenue, and all of a sudden there will be a whole channel of multi-use, high-story buildings along Coney Island Avenue, which was never intended. We're worried that it's going to spread along and really change the delicate balance. The proposal has different varied forms. It started at 11, then went to 10, went to 9, then they offered us 8, and we have no, and we also saw the application today is at 11 stories. We have no idea how consistent they are. The applicant states that they care about the community, yet we haven't seen the evidence of saying. It seems to be a profit motive versus a burden on the teachers, the parents, and mostly on the students. And parking, who knows if they're going to maintain the full-time attendant to worry about the stacking parking. The parking in the area is terrible. I've gone there for a number of events, can't even find a hydrant for one to stay for 5 minutes. It's terribly overburdened, and we ask that the Borough President do not allow this reason to go forward to not only this particular site, but will have extensive effect along Coney Island Avenue. Thank you very much for your listening.
Thank you.
Thank you. So next we'll have Jim Search and then Catherine Buccello.
So I'm here on behalf of residents in Brooklyn who live in Brooklyn and believe in what Brooklyn stands for, which is a place for everyone to have affordable housing. And quite frankly, I don't believe that this initiative is going to promise that. We have seen this playbook play out time and time again, and I have no belief that under any circumstance that anything would be honored. And until we see anything different, which I think we know we won't, I will stand here with all of the citizens who genuinely believe that Brooklyn is a place for everyone to have a place to live, that we will be honored with who we are. So that's all I have to say, and I'm giving the time back.
Thank you.
Okay, next, I will please ask that everyone throughout all 3 applications tonight, please refrain from cheering, clapping, or other disruptions to ensure that everyone can be heard, everyone has an opportunity to speak, submit testimony, so we can proceed with testimony smoothly. So next is Catherine Buccello.
Clapping is not a disruption. It's a response.
Next we have Alicia Boyd.
Hi, my name is Alicia Boyd, and I'm a political activist. And it's amazing how all 3 of these applications are trying to take commercial corridors and turning them into residential that appear before the city you're very true. Robert LaBelle, whatever, we were in court with him, right? Didn't we file a lawsuit? And he was one of the lawyers, and then he had to leave because we kind of beat him up. Well, yeah, we really tore him up in that lawsuit. But it's a common occurrence to see the same lawyers, the same playbook, the same lies, the same.
Oh my God.
Do I get extra time for that?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Oh my God.
We'll give you extra.
Thank you. Wow. Did you get that?
Why is it happening during this time? This is no accident.
Just come right here.
Okay. Can you hear me? Right.
Start the clock back.
Okay, he'll start the clock back. So it's not a coincidence that our communities are being taken over by developers. You know, here comes the city of Yes with the economic development. Oh, we're supposed to be protecting our commercial spaces, and oh, we need these commercial spaces. But then here comes the rezonings where they take away all of our commercial spaces and make them into residential. As if we don't need.
It's coming from where?
Somebody online is doing that.
Oh, well, they got really sophisticated, huh? I'll wait until you get that. Okay, can you stop? Thank you. So I say all this to say is that we've seen this playbook over and over again. Our borough president, who's not here, put it on the record that he doesn't listen to community boards because we're just homeowners and rent stabilized tenants. And so we don't really care about all the transient people. But guess who votes for him? The homeowners and the tenants. So if he doesn't want to listen to us, well, maybe we need to be considering having somebody else who will. This is an election year. Guys, do think about organizing against him and pushing back and removing him from office, because he's made it publicly known that he's not going to listen to community boards, the members, when it comes to development, because all he can see is the developers and the money that they want to make off of the backs of our community and our residents and our homes and our children and our family. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Joe Gonzalez. I'm a resident of Brooklyn, and I stand here tonight opposing all pending rezonings and any that may come in the future. I've been doing these rezonings as a private citizen / protester probably 30 years. And in all the meetings I have attended in my life, in the various neighborhoods and the various events, I can't remember one time where, when we had a conversation about rezonings, we did at the same time discuss the impact new buildings would have on what's now known as wraparound services.
Oh, come on, guys. You guys got to do better than this.
So we don't have this conversation. And I need to tell you, downtown Brooklyn being the best example, if new buildings go up and bring in large numbers of new people to the community, it will have a direct impact on public services. Electeds don't talk about this. There's a need for new schools. Large numbers of new people in the neighborhood impact our post office, impact sanitation. More garbage trucks are needed. You don't hear that. Probably the most blatant example is the impact high-rise buildings have on the New York City Fire Department. They have protocols when they fight fires and respond to emergencies. Firemen, a certain amount go to each floor. They cannot take the elevator to a fire on the 29th floor, so they have to run up. They wear oxygen tanks, which give them a certain amount of time to hit each floor. When there's a fire in a high-rise building, the local firehouse is overwhelmed. So what happens? They bring fire trucks from far away, the other side of Brooklyn, East New York, wherever. That impacts. So since we don't talk about it, what we're now seeing in downtown Brooklyn, fire trucks come from Bay Ridge.
we're not getting no increase in police, fire, thank you, health department, sanitation, the wraparound services. So in conclusion, I ask that all these zonings be put aside until there is a study on what the impact these new buildings will have on public services. And that's what's on my mind.
Thank you so much.
So I'm Kevin Williams from GCA, an environmental consultant on this particular application. I know there have been a lot of general comments, but I wanted to specifically address the chairperson of Community Board 15's comment. We actually did discuss in our pre-ULURP application that there's an designation next to the site and that it would be remediated. And in the course of this action, it would be required by law prior to construction to be remediated. So that was actually stated and it's on record with both of you. I just wanted to note that. So that otherwise, it will not be remediated. It's not required. The other thing that I want to know, kind of goes to the last comment, is every environmental assessment, every rezoning that is done as an environmental assessment or environmental impact statement, and it studies exactly those types of wraparound services, sewer capacities, schools, which actually are declining school systems in terms of occupancy throughout New York City. So I just want you to note, like all these environmental assessments are a matter of public record on every rezoning that goes through, and they cover these matters. So that's all I can think of.
Yeah, they cover that. They said, oh yes, we looked.
I think that exhausts the list of people who have signed up. Does anyone else wish to speak on this item? Sir, please approach the podium and state your name and the record. Thank you.
My name is James Sutton. We, the people of the Gravesend community, are fiercely opposed to the 2510 Coney Island Avenue rezoning proposal. We are a residential community that is already struggling with maintaining a safe lifestyle while living behind Coney Island Avenue, a commercial street filled with businesses, commercial spaces, and existing apartment buildings adjacent to the area. If the zoning is changed and a large residential building is allowed to go up at 2510 Coney Island Avenue, we are petrified about the safety of our children. The nearby school, which serves the purpose of educating our children, necessarily already requires numerous buses and traffic on a daily basis. Each day, hundreds of students attend this elementary school and high school on Coney Island Avenue, across the street from the proposed site. Many of these students, including my own children, my nephews, my nieces, live in a few blocks radius of the school. They're either walking or riding their electric scooters to school. Just imagine the risks associated with an increased amount of people and traffic that would be created in this already dense populated area. There will be a tremendous safety risk to our children all day, every day. These children are in school from 6:30, 7 o'clock, sometimes till 9, 10 o'clock at night. This is a risk that we are not willing to take, and you should not be willing to take this as well. In addition, as previously mentioned, a building of this size would strain the existing resources, including sanitation, parking, and police. Additionally, there is the noise and traffic it would bring. The additional cars, people, deliveries, everything else that goes into having hundreds of additional people in a small constricted area would severely impact their quality of life and safety. Also, let us consider what is already in place on the block. The change to the zoning would eventually lead to the removal of the Chase Bank, and there is no other bank for the community in the area. As of today, we have over 500 people that have signed up, who have signed the petition opposing this proposal. While the vast majority of them live in the area, the others are fellow community members who have family and relatives that attend the school. We will not stop. Thank you for your consideration.
Excuse me, I would like to speak again because I was muted, my testimony was muted, and people have verified that when he verified that he muted my testimony, so people couldn't hear me.
not ready yet. It's not working. But I just need to.
Okay, so I'm muted, so but I still can't. I can't hear.
Yeah, see, that's the issue.
I'm hearing.
Sorry, 1 second while we figure out the tech.
Test, test. Okay, so people in the live stream, if someone could, in the chat, say whether or not they can hear what's being said right now. Okay, so David says yes, that you can hear. Linda, Troy, everyone's saying yes, that they can hear what's being said right now.
Okay, so can you now? No one was muted.
Okay.
Go put the microphone, that microphone up on the.
Well, so this microphone is capturing everything that's coming out of the speakers that's being said on the podium mic, as well as the 2 wireless mics. So if you want to go up to the podium, they should be able to hear you.
Or just give her that mic.
Yeah, you can take this mic too.
Take that mic.
Turn on the TV so that the folks that are on the live stream do not interrupt your testimony. Okay, you good?
Okay, I'm so glad that Reynoso showed up because I wanted to talk to Reynoso about this comment that he made during the City of Yes hearings, where he said he was not going to be listening to the community board members and their decisions because they were basically made up of homeowners and rent stabilized tenants who have protections. I just want to remind you, Reynoso, that we are also the voting bloc that votes you in. And so that comment not only was very disrespectful to us, dismissing us and all the hard work, it's the community boards that come and ensure that the laws of this city are implemented and that the community is protected. For you as a borough president to sit there in a public hearing, state that you're not going to listen to us, is just outright disrespectful. And that alone should be galvanizing the community to have you removed as our borough president. We need to have a borough president who's going to say he has listened to the community and he's going to do what the community wants, instead of having a borough president says he's going to listen to developers and do what they want, because that's all we have gotten from you so far. We have 3 applications sitting in front of you today. They are all talking about changing commercial corridors into residential, despite the fact of environmental impact studies. There's nothing in place to do any upgrading to the system. There's nothing to do with reducing shadow impacts and all other types of negative impacts that have been noted on the environmental assessments. And yet, we know that you're going to just go ahead and say yes to all of them because you claim that you're so supportive of quote-unquote affordable housing, which we all know is not affordable to the residents in our communities. These are luxury towers that come in, do a massive amount of displacement of the existing population, as well as causing us serious issues in our community. You need to start listening to us, Reynoso, because we are the voters. Thank you.
Thank you.
So anyone who spoke before, the comments were successfully recorded and will be in the record on the YouTube hearing when it's posted to YouTube. Is there anyone that would like to speak on this item? Anyone else?
Speaker.
You just please everyone state.
Hi, my name is Teresa Westerdahl. I came to speak on Empire, but I see this Coney Island application. And I go to Coney Island for the last 30 years frequently. I love Coney Island. I appreciate what's there. And I do feel that the development of the commercial corridors into residential towers is going to be a big mistake, providing shadow in a space where we want to go. The community goes all around Brooklyn to experience sunshine, fresh air, ocean breezes, and putting a big commercial corridor there, or a residential corridor there, is not going to help anyone, except for the developers that will be using that for luxury development. I am sure that is what will happen. So thank you for listening, and those are my comments. Thank you. Thank you. Hearing no further comment, this item is now closed. Please call the second item.
Calendar item number 2, 7399 Empire Boulevard, ULURP numbers C230309DMK and N230310CRK, a private application by Empire Boulevard Holdings LLC for a zoning map amendment from C82 and R6 C13 overlay to C44D and a zoning text amendment to map a new mandatory exclusionary housing area to facilitate development of a new 13-story residential and commercial development, including 3,616 residential square feet, 261 dwelling units, and 65,828 commercial square feet at 7399 Empire Boulevard in Crown Heights, Community District 9, Brooklyn. On January 9th, Community Board 9 voted or issued an unfavorable recommendation with the conditions that the applicant, 1, consider affordable public parking as part of the project's commercial parking proposal. 2, deepen the affordability and increase the percentage of income restricted units, with at least 30% of units at 40% of area median income or less. 3, reduce the residential zoning height below 60 feet or a height that would not cast significant shadows on the PS 375K basketball courts. And 4, consider commercial space at affordable rents for small local businesses. Please state your name and present this application.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Eli Gewurtz. I'm with David Oth, Hutcher and Citron, LLP. I'm representing the applicant, Empire Boulevard Holdings, LLC, in this rezoning application at 7399 Empire Boulevard in the Crown Heights South section of Brooklyn Community District 9. It's really great to see everyone here tonight. Thank you so much for this opportunity. So the application that we are presenting tonight is requesting 2 land use actions. So the first one is a zoning map amendment to rezone the site, which is currently in a split zoning district from C82, which is the current district along the southern portion of the zoning lot, along Empire Boulevard, and R6C13, which is the current zoning along the northern portion of the development site, along Sullivan Place. And we're proposing to rezone the entirety of the site to C44D, which is an RAA residential equivalent. This is a mixed-use commercial district that allows both commercial uses, destination retail types of uses, which is something that we're very excited about, keeping that commercial integrity along Empire Boulevard, in addition to providing much-needed housing. And the proposed development would also incorporate a zoning text amendment to map an MIH options 1 and 2 over the development site, as is necessary with all zoning map amendment applications. And the proposed actions would facilitate a 13-story building of approximately 145 feet, containing 261 total dwelling units and 98,000 square feet of commercial floor area to be located in the cellar, first and second floors. That's, again, something that's unique about this program, is that we are proposing a robust commercial program. The development here, Michael Burfield is with Bridges Development Corporation, who specializes in retail development. And again, that's something we're very excited about with this proposal. Just so you see what the site would look like, just in context, so this is the proposed development here. Again, just to orient everyone to the site, so we're at the corner of three street frontages. Empire Boulevard is the main frontage, which has approximately 238 feet of frontage along Empire. Then it's along McKeever Place, which is approximately 221 feet of frontage. And then in the back, it's along Sullivan Place, approximately 143 feet of frontage. So here's a look straight on of what the building would look like. As you see, we have varying street wall heights, really trying to blend the building within the surrounding context.
You call that blending in? That's a
Please, we have
blending
to
in?
know disruption, so
Is
please
that a
respect
blending
every
in?
speaker.
That's blending in? Blended in?
So
A 13-story building
Please,
on
we
a
have to refrain from
one-story
all cheering,
quarter
clapping,
is
or other
blending in?
disruptions.
Watch your language.
So the project location again is.
Can you go back to the previous slide?
Sorry.
You can continue with the presentation.
The project is located on block 1306, lot 28. It's in Crystal Hudson's district. District 35.
We're aware of that one.
direct your funds.
Please,
Thank
we
you.
would like for everyone to be heard.
So just some brief project benefits that really we see as you'll see pictures of the existing condition of the site. The site is a real blight right now on the community. It's been vacant for over 20 years.
That's a lie. That's a lie. I've
There
been
was-
in that community over 20 years,
there
and you're
was-
a liar. Don't
There
lie, don't
was-
lie.
We do ask the comments.
We
to be
asked them
held.
to be truthful during
So
the
that
hearing. It was not vacant for the last 20 years. Excuse me.
Yes, I do hear you.
Excuse me.
but-
When your
Stop
neighbors
lying.
talk, like,
Right.
yeah,
Exactly.
you know that, yeah,
When
you
your
understand
children are
how
shadowed and
painful
their
it is.
schools
Just
are
painful.
shadowed,
Just-
then you
sir,
can
go
say.
on. Go
Look,
on.
go ahead, keep
Thank
the
you.
lying. Stop lying. Don't say any lies in this hearing.
Okay, continue.
So again, we're looking to revitalize the streetscape here with active uses, again, because the site is currently vacant. We're looking to enhance the pedestrian experience here with active uses, bringing eyes to the street, stimulating the local economy with new job opportunities and retail uses where people shopping in the area, and would reverse the urban decay that you're seeing along the site, in addition to providing much needed housing and of course affordable housing as well.
Yeah, of course.
So here, as you see the project site with the surrounding area, just giving you an aerial view of the site. So as you see to our immediate north is the 224-foot Ebbets Field apartment complex. So we would be half of that size at 145 feet. And here you see, also looking to our west, you see we're 2 blocks to the west is Prospect Park. So this is a 100-foot commercial thoroughfare here along Empire Boulevard. You really see the mixed-use nature of the site. Looking to the northwest, you see the Jackie Robinson School and the Jackie Robinson Playground. Further north of
That
that.
you want to put shadows on.
Now, just looking at the site, given the showing how the site is a rich transit area, so we're approximately 0.3 miles from the BQS Prospect Park Station, which again promotes what we looked at, the Borough Presidents' comprehensive plan for Brooklyn, which is looking, which supports increasing density within 10-minute walk of public transportation, so long as you're not getting rid of manufacturing districts, which we would not be doing here. So that's something that we think aligns with the Borough President's comprehensive
And
plan.
what about our density? We're the densest populated
there's-
area in Brooklyn.
There's also many bus
Are you
routes.
considering that, Reynoso, the fact that we're the densest populated
Just
area?
continue to speak, you've been actually speaking, just continue to speak. And
Did you
if the
take that
public
into
can't hear
consideration,
it, that's
Reynoso, that we're the
right.
densest populated area in Brooklyn?
So this is now just looking at the
Huh,
zoning map.
Reynoso?
So something I want to point out is that the zoning map, so what we're proposing here, the C44D district, is an RAA residential equivalent. You already have RAA density here mapped to the immediate northwest along Sullivan Place, right between Franklin and Washington Avenues. You have RAA district, which extends up north to Eastern Parkway. You also see RAX mapped here, which allows higher density than the RAA residential equivalent that we're proposing. And we see the R71s right to our immediate north. So we really think what we're proposing here is within context of the surrounding zoning map and the surrounding zoning districts that you're seeing within the immediate surrounding context. This is a look at the site. Again, it's a 38,118 square foot lot. It's a corner lot, with, as you see, which fronts 3 streets. It's a very unique site in the fact that it fronts these 3 streets, which we're using to our advantage. We're trying to allocate the different uses around the site strategically, putting the loading and parking entrances along Sullivan Place away from Empire, with the primary commercial frontage along Empire, and then the residential entrances would be along McKeever Place. And this just gives you, again, the brief overview of the land use map, showing the mixed use nature of this community, of this neighborhood. And then the zoning map amendment, again showing the rezoning from C82 along Empire Boulevard and R6C13 along Sullivan Place to C44D. This zoning has been mapped since 1961. The site has never been rezoned, and a main reason why we're seeking the C44D is because the site is inhibited in its development, which is why it's been sitting in this current condition. As you can see here, this is what the building looks like right now. You cannot build residential along the C82, and you cannot do destination larger retail in the back of the site in the C13. So really, because of the split district and the differing uses, the differing regulations that apply along the different areas of the site, it makes it really difficult to develop a cohesive building, and that's what the C44D district is looking to create here.
But on the opposite end of that, there's a whole development.
Again, just taking you through the site, this is what the one-story building looks like now. So it's currently vacant except for this laundromat, one-story building that used to be on the western side of the site, and then it moved over to the eastern portion of the site. So that's the only use currently in this one-story building. And just taking you around the site, so here you can see the sidewalk condition along Empire Boulevard. Again, this is something that we're excited about with this proposal, really looking to clean up this site where with active uses, bringing eyes to the street, and really taking care of this dilapidated condition, which again, right, our client only purchased the site approximately 3 years ago, doing the best he can to maintain it in its current state, but really is not
Maintain it?
not producing any benefit for the community in its current state. So now just taking you around the site, here you see along McKeever Place, just looking north of the project site to the east. This is the sidewalk along McKeever Place, so we'd be widening the sidewalk, as we understand this is the narrowest of the streets that fronts our building. So we'd be widening the sidewalk to make it more pedestrian friendly, to be 15 feet wide here. And here's McKeever Place again, just seeing more of what the building looks like currently. So again, wrapping around the site, you can see this is the corner of McKeever Place and Sullivan, and now looking east along Sullivan Place of the current condition of the sidewalk here at the back of the site. This is what the back of the site looks like, the one-story vacant building. And then here you can see the back of the laundromat, which has 4 parking spaces under this garage here for the laundromat. This is the building just to our immediate northwest, which we'll talk about later on in the presentation. This is PS 375K, which has a running track and basketball court associated with the PS 375K in Jackie Robinson Middle School. So that's on the corner of McKeever Place and Sullivan Place.
That you plan on shadowing for 5 hours.
And this is what you can see immediately across the street along Empire Boulevard. This is the western beach. Just to give everyone a sense of what the current zoning allows here. Again, because it's a split district, it allows different uses along different portions of the site. So in the R6013 portion of the lot, this allows buildings both built according to quality housing and height factor regulations. So in the R6, it could accommodate approximately a 9-story, 100-foot building here as of right, which could contain approximately 40 market rate dwelling units. It could also have some ground floor retail. And again, in the CA2 portion, no residential is permitted, which we would allow up to a 2-point FAR commercial uses. And what we're proposing, so as you can see here, would be for the entirety of the site, it would be 13 stories, 145 feet. The floor area would be approximately 273,500 square feet of total floor area at the 7.2 FAR that's permitted in the C44D district. As I said before, there's a robust commercial program looking to bring in more neighborhood retail and an affordable grocery store on the first floor, and then the second floor looking to bring in more destination type retail. Looking again, nothing is lined up at the current moment with where we are with the project. We're looking at stores similar to Target, Burlington Coat Factory, stores that can really be beneficial to this neighborhood, and that's again something that the community board was very excited about, to see this active commercial uses. And then the residential entrances would be along McKeever. We would be providing 190 spaces here. So as of right, with the zoning zoning requires 144 spaces because City of Yes did not change the commercial parking regulations. So because we're proposing 98,000 square feet of commercial floor area, there's required to have 98 parking for the commercial because it's 1 per 1,000 square feet. And then we'd be required to have parking for 25% of the residences of the market rate residences, which here we're proposing 183 market rate residences, so that would equal 46 spaces. We're providing 46 more, as something we heard from the community, that they do want to see parking here. That's something that our client is happy to provide as well.
Is that what we said? I don't remember having that conversation.
And then just looking at right now what we're proposing on the affordable versus market rate, 183 market rate and 78 affordable. At the moment, again, this is something that we're still working on with Councilman Hudson's office as well as with HPD to try to provide deeper levels of affordability. So those meetings are still forthcoming. But right now we are proposing 78 affordable units under MAH option 2, the breakdown of 88 studios, 72 one-bedrooms, 87 two-bedrooms, and 14 three-bedroom units. Here you can just see how we're showing the different massing, how different various street wall heights and setbacks throughout the building, creating a more interesting and less imposing street wall. So here you can see just a neighborhood height diagram. So again, this area that you're seeing already around us, a lot of tall buildings. You're seeing, of course, Evans Field Apartments, which is 224 feet. There's a building 2 blocks to the north that's being built at 174 feet at 54 Crown Street. So 1 block further north is Tivoli Towers, which is 341 feet. There was a new building recently built at 1 Sullivan Place. That's 119 feet. And then the project that was recently approved at 962, 972 Franklin Avenue is going to be 10 stories. So again, what we're proposing definitely fits within the heights that you're seeing within the immediate surrounding area. So again, just going through the land use rationale, so as you saw the images of the site, it really is a site that is heavily underutilized on a strip in Brooklyn that could really accommodate the density that we're proposing. Empire Boulevard is 100 feet wide. It would reactivate the streetscape, keeping the commercial integrity and keeping of this commercial corridor with the active commercial uses here in a district, in an area where you're seeing residential RA8 equivalent right around us, and we're endeavoring to create a regional commercial center, which is what C44D zoning is meant to facilitate. It's located near public transit, open space, including the Prospect Park, Jackie Robinson Playground, which can accommodate the residential uses that we're proposing.
And at the same time shadow it.
So then we also saw how looking at what Community Board 9's district needs were. They noted in their district needs statement that there's a need for housing for families. So we're allocating 38% of the dwelling units for 2 and 3 bedroom units, approximately 101 dwelling units here which could accommodate families. We saw in their district needs statement that there is a need for parking. That's something we saw. And the proposed development, as mentioned, is providing a little bit more parking than what would be required by zoning, and they also saw there was a need for access to healthy food, and that's something we're looking to bring into the first floor of the development.
Right across the street from.
And just briefly looking at, so Councilmember Hudson put out a district framework for development in her community in the fall of 2023. So just showing how we've been looking at that, trying to meet the framework that she proposed. She's looking to exceed the minimum requirements for affordable housing. So as I mentioned, that's something we're working with her to try to provide more affordable housing than what MIH would require, meeting a baseline for safe and healthy, accessible places to live, providing fair compensation to workers, and supporting a local workforce. So again, just showing how we're looking at her design framework. We're going to be looking to hire locally for both construction and operation jobs, and we're going to be using universal design, which is principles for making it accessible for all people, regardless of age and disability. and looking at sustainability and passive house construction, ADA accessibility, and providing that national affordable grocer on the ground floor, as we spoke about. So again, now getting briefly into the environmental review, which the EAS looks at all of these sections of how the proposed development would impact all of these sections under the seeker technical manual. Our analysis concluded that there will be no adverse impacts resulting from the construction or operation of the project. We got a negative declaration from city planning. Of course, we want to talk about the shadows, right? So we're very happy to say that there will be 0 shadows on Brooklyn Botanic Garden or Jackie Robinson Playground.
That is not true.
Yes,
That is not true. I have the EAS right here in front of me. That's not true.
I have the shadow study with me where there will be no
Don't
project
lie.
generating impact on Brooklyn Botanic Garden or Jackie Robinson Playground,
That is not
and
true.
no significant adverse shadow impacts on any of the surrounding sunlight sensitive resources as well.
What's your definition of no impact?
4 hours. I'm here 370K basketball court.
And this is the
The
basketball
Jackie
court.
Robinson School, the upper charter school at 46 McKeever.
And then
The
just
Jackie Robinson School at 19 Sullivan
That-
Place. 10 McKeever Place.
And then just looking at the
Children's
renderings
Garden
of the
at
site,
48 McKeever
just
Place.
looking through,
All those shadows on these children.
and then this is what the project will look like. Thank you so much for your time. I'd love to take any questions you might have.
Thank you.
I
for
didn't
the
see
testimony.
any affordability. Did you see any
So,
affordability? Did you
The
see
next part,
30%
we're gonna
AMI,
just go to the presentation
50%
and let them
AMI?
speak, their mind.
Yeah,
And then when they stand there, we'll be quiet and allow them to speak.
Yes.
Because we're courteous.
Yeah, you're courteous,
How
but
many
you don't
residential
listen to us.
units would be impacted if the building were adapted to reduce the shadow impacts that exist on the 375 basketball courts?
So the site allows, right, as I mentioned before, it's R6C13 in the back of the site, which allows a height factor building, as I mentioned before, of 9 stories, 100
Which
feet.
is not true,
That-
an R6 does not give you 9 stories.
Under height factor regulations, we have our architect here, and that's what the
You can sit
architect,
there and get your
that's what our
architect what
architect
you want.
revealed. So that
You gotta just speak to me.
Yes, so that would yield, as I mentioned before, 40 market rate units. So we're proposing in total 261 units. So it would be a difference of 220 units, and right now 78 affordable units.
We're looking through the shadow path for the basketball courts.
It's more than the basketball courts that are affected.
So yeah, so
Have
I
you
love.
identified tenants for the ground floor commercial space? I know you talked about Target or potential Burlington Coal Factory. Have you locked those in, or is that something you're pushing for?
So again, not locked in right now, but Michael and his team is working closely, is in contact with these retailers, and that's what he specializes in, so that's what we're looking for. The second floor commercial and the cellar space, and the first floor we're looking for to bring in a grocery store, kind of maybe like a Trader Joe's type
Right
store
across the street.
that we're in touch with, and also bringing
Western
in
Bee.
space for local retail uses as well.
And then how many more residential units and residential floor area can be included if only the required parking was provided?
So we're not using any residential floor area to provide the parking, right? So we're not going to be losing any dwelling units across the parking. As I mentioned, the site is required to have 144 spaces already as according to the zoning. So we just be adding 46 more spaces as that's something that we like to do, that we're seeing that's something that the community wants, it's better for the residents of the building. So again, we're not using any residential floor area to provide that parking. We're not losing any dwelling units.
Thank you. Time is up. Thank you so much.
What about the shadow impacts? He never answered that.
Questions from anybody?
We will now call for testimony on this application for members of the public in attendance tonight. Please note that all comments are limited to 2 minutes. So now we'll go through the folks that signed up for the testimony.
First, we have Fred Baptiste.
Go ahead, Fred.
You can sign.
Thank you very much. My name is Fred Baptiste. I am the chair of Brooklyn Board 9, and my board voted no conditions with respect to this application. Before I begin, I did want to make the note that I found it amusing that they looked at our website and they saw our district needs, but we never saw the applicant before my committee, before the actual going to speak to the community.
Never can.
And I believe it kind of pervades the rest of the application as well. So, my board, so we voted no to conditions, and I want to say that I think what we're seeing is conversations that keep happening over and over and over. The concerns continue to be shadows on our local resources. Our resources in the community. Sunlight is important. Our playgrounds are important. Green space to breathe, green spaces, those are the things that are important, and this doesn't do this. Again, we're talking about out of context developments. So, right now on that block on Sullivan Street, we have a 5-story building and a 7-story building, and now you want to add to the mix 13 stories potential, which is disrespectful to the owners there. I think it's necessary that we respect the zoning. The zoning is there for reasons, and it's important that we don't upset that as well. I also want to talk about, again, it's not the fact that, okay, well, they're going to build some apartments on that. That doesn't necessarily benefit the community, which speaks about community benefits. The applicant, of course, will get market rate, 183 units of market rate, which is unaffordable by anybody in my district, and a lot of New York X out as well. And then for the 78 units that they're talking about that remain, still, we can't afford that. There is not enough affordability. And we are given, well, hang on, we'll see if we can get a little bit more for you. That is nonsense.
Somewhere down the
The
line.
formula should be built in. My board was very specific in terms of, we don't have a problem with the commercial space because that's what it's zoned for. But to try and go under the pretense of, we're gonna throw some apartments in there and make it look nice, doesn't do anything. There is, again, insufficient community benefit for the community. I think even during the conversations, there's still an indeterminate mix of what the apartment sizes are. So we don't even know what we're gonna get, if we're gonna get a whole bunch of studios with 1 bedrooms or what's gonna happen. Yeah, I mean, I think it's just understanding. The last piece I wanted to say is that, and I think the applicant already said it too as well, we've seen a domino effect of all the high rises that are happening in the district. And as a community, we still haven't seen the benefit of whatever affordability comes from that. So I think if we're doing variances, we really need to look at what comes back. And I have not seen anything, and my district has not seen anything that's coming back that says that we should go against the current zone. Thank you.
Julia Bryant, followed by Jim Search. Julia Bryant, followed by Jim Search.
I am Julia Bryant. Can you?
Yes.
I didn't actually intend to speak up this evening. I just kind of thought I was signing up to say I was attending, but after what I've heard, I'm so glad I got a chance to speak. I've been doing these hearings for about 12 years, and I think at this point there is a script, and each time they just change the address and the location, and we hear the same song over and over again. Was it same song, different words? And I'd like to know, this last presentation, we've never seen these pictures before. And, someone would say, well, if you were, a citizen who comes to meetings on a regular basis. I come to meetings all the time. This is new.
Yes.
This
Never
is
saw
shocking.
these pictures.
That this is the first time that this community is seeing these pictures, and they're seeing them on the screen. We didn't get a handout.
We didn't get any.
I'm just disappointed. I'm just disappointed. I'm embarrassed and I'm disappointed. I'm embarrassed that this is what it's come to. Same songs. What is at the end? We're going to get you affordable housing at the end when we get around to. Oh, we forgot.
We're working on it.
We're working on it. We're going to get back to you. Community agreements. Oh, you didn't go to the right meeting. You didn't hear it. We did it. You're going to get it later. I'm done.
Thank you. Next we have Jim Search, and Jim will be followed by Captain Buccello.
This is your first time coming.
So as somebody who lives in the neighborhood, I thought it was pretty cute to have it described as urban decay. Nice touch to someone who's, really actually lived there and wouldn't be scared of the Parkway Creek. You know what I mean? Anyway, I know you're probably not listening to me, but we'll get to that. I'm a resident of Crown Heights, and I have no intention of leaving. Why? Because it's my home. That's why I'm not leaving. And these buildings are symbols to show me that I don't belong here. And they can, pardon the language, there's a housing crisis. That's what I heard. How is that possible? When there are empty buildings all over the city. So I'm not a mathematician, but if 800,000 people have left New York City over 4 years, but yet there's all these vacant buildings, none of that makes any sense. So you can miss me with that nonsense. And as we have said, and I also found it interesting since I've heard that this development is so needed in our community, you got drowned out by everybody on the other side of the room. I don't get that. That don't make any sense to me. And yeah, this development's gonna block the school and our neighborhood. So I don't understand what makes us think that it won't. Because we've said it, we continue to say it, but much like everybody else, we aren't being listened to. And the problem with that is that we're just gonna get louder and louder and louder until all you're gonna hear is us. Thanks.
Thank you. Next is Catherine Michello, and after Catherine will be Alicia Boyd.
Okay, before you start my clock, I do get anxiety speaking, so like, if we can minimize some of the responses, that'd be great, and I'm short, so give me a second, okay? So my name is Catherine Michello, and I also wanted to come up here and speak about why I oppose this in the neighborhood. To the developers, you're not investing in our community, you're investing in with your greed and outside interests. Who was excited? I don't recall seeing you at any general board meeting, and I'm a general board member. So very curious about that. As a business owner and a resident of CB9, I want to highlight why I oppose this development. I live in rent-stabilized housing that isn't affordable, even as a business owner, as many others in the neighborhood trying to maintain housing with the reality of what our actual salary is within this neighborhood and this district. I won a year of abatement that got turned to a handover case because of my slumlord trying to avoid doing proper repairs for habitable living. And this is still a conversation happening. Today I was requested about the rent that I already paid. However, I had to remind him that he has a violation from 8 days after I paid rent for not having adequate heat or hot water for an entire week when we were facing 20-degree weather. As a business owner, I only made 2 years because of a predator lease and landlord behaviors. If you say you're considering commercial, how come you're not considering the community commercial? After some of these opportunities and as these affluent communities such as Dumbo, where they get proper percentage for a commercial space to act as an actual community space. I don't see that in this development at all. We need affordable options for commercial capabilities so community businesses can also thrive. And we need proper matching affordable housing, not new affordable housing. We need the city to stop being lazy and assist with placement of actual New Yorkers finding placement in already available units. Reynoso, I do also want to say I was very excited to start as a new board member with you as our borough president, and I have never been so heartbroken and so disappointed being an actual New Yorker, and I'm baffled at how proud you can be with this placement and the destruction of this borough and this city. Thank you.
Next is Alicia Boyd, and after Alicia will be Dion Michael Ashman.
Just going to read you from the environmental assessment statement for the proposal of a 130-foot tall development that shows incremental shadow impacts of up to 4 hours on PS 375K basketball courts, upon Jackie Robinson School, PS 35, XC Upper Charter School at 46 McKeever Place, the Jackie Robinson School play area at 19 Sullivan Place, and at 10 McKeever Place, the Children's Garden at 48 McKeever Place, and the Community Park Triangle at 11 Sullivan Place, which is on the corner of Sullivan Place and Franklin Avenue, and of course Evans Field. And yet, they claim that they're not going to do any serious environmental impacts. So our children should just be in the dark. Is that because our children are brown? Reynoso? Because I see you're not listening to me. Do you believe that black children don't deserve to have sunlight because we have some protection against the sun? Is that your position, Reynoso? Because this development is going to propose all of our open spaces that actually support all of this development that's happening. These are the only open green spaces that our children have in this entire neighborhood. And all of these green spaces, all of these open spaces will now be shadowed by this one development project. And what are we getting in return? Oh yeah, a couple of parking spaces,
Whoopi, we're going to get a, what was that? The income, the Coke factory. Wow, while our children have to play in the dark. Why is it that the Brooklyn Botanic Gardens can negotiate a deal so that the plants are shadowed, but we can't get a deal where our children are not shadowed, our playgrounds are not shadowed? Our children deserve to live in the sun, play in the sun. This is the only open space that's available to Ebbets Field and all those developments that the developer was talking about. This is their open space. So if you build this development without considering the shadow impacts, everybody in this neighborhood and all the children will now be playing in the dark. Do you like that, Reynoso? Is that appropriate for you? Is that good enough for you? I just want to know what your position is about that, Reynoso.
Is Dion Michael Ashman, followed by
Reynoso, how is that for you? Do you think that that's appropriate? You think that developers should come into a neighborhood and overshadow?
Start the clock for the next person.
I'm just asking a question. Reynoso, why don't you answer me?
She's gonna try.
Whoa.
Why don't you answer me?
Borough President.
Why don't you answer me?
Also, what happens here, I'll give my 2 minutes.
She can come down and.
Why don't
stop
you sit
speaking,
there?
Or we will start the clock, or we will.
Why don't you sit there and just answer my question,
Without
Reynoso?
any
Is it
testimony,
appropriate?
because obviously
Do
this
black
is
children
protesting
deserve to
your
have
leadership.
sunlight? Do they
No,
deserve to
I'm
play in
asking.
the sun? Do they deserve to play in the sun, Reynoso? Would your children deserve to play in the sun? Oh yeah, Lori Cumbo, does your child deserve to play in the sun?
It's like the military. That's what, you're out of bounds right now.
Right, Reynoso? Do you have children,
Come on,
Reynoso?
hey, start that
Do
clock
you have
over.
children, Reynoso? Does Reynoso have children? Anybody know? If you had children, would you want them to play in the sun, Reynoso? Would you want them to play in the sun? No. Would you want them to play in the sun, Reynoso? Would you want them to? Well, we want our children to play in the sun, Reynoso. We want our children to go into the backyards and into the playground because they live in towers. And the only time they get to go outside and play is in these fields, is in these yards. And now you're about to deprive them of all the sunlight that they can get. And Lori Cumbo, we know you have a child.
All right, can you start that 2 minutes, please? All right?
Just go ahead.
Thank you.
Just go ahead.
All right, here we go. My name is Dion Michael Ashman. I am I don't need that.
Do the mic because they might be muting you.
Okay.
They
All
might
right.
mute you. Start the clock back over. Start the clock back over.
All right. Start it up. All right. My name is Dion Michael Ashman. I am a lifetime resident of Crown Heights, right there by just up the block from Ebbets Field. What you're showing there, I either walk past there or drive past there like these folks do at least 5, 6, 7 times a week. I received my basketball scholarship to Pace University, playing ball in that park. I graduated from that school when it was the Jackie Robinson Intermediate School. This right here is a capital drain on our neighborhood. It's not for us who's already there in the neighborhood. I've been in that neighborhood for 60 years. 60 years. So young man, when you tell me and everybody here that it's been vacant for 20 years, I know you're not in the neighborhood.
Exactly.
So, now, attitude reflects leadership.
Yes.
So, Mr. Borough President Reynoso, when are our elected officials going to stand up for us? Because what's happening is that there are electeds who keep supporting these projects. But when they come to see us, whether it's a ULURP meeting, or it's a public safety meeting, or it's a general board meeting, we're not getting the protections from our elected officials. We're just not getting it. And nobody can dispute that. Not you, not the council member, not the previous council member. You're not standing up for the people who have been there, that have vested, that have put time, blood, sweat, and tears in. Joe talked about the wraparound services. Come on, that's common sense. But then again, my father used to say common sense is not that common. And some people are challenged with common sense. This is a capital drain. The best that we're going to get out of this project is going to be maybe a 50% filled building, and then the developer will work out a deal with the city to put a homeless shelter there. Right? And then what we're going to get is nothing but minimum wage jobs for the people maybe who live in it. And the people who do get the higher, like regional manager positions, are going to come from Long Island, are going to come from other areas, but not our area. This is a thumbs down. Or if anybody remembers Hollywood Shuffle, you know what I'm doing. Thank you.
Next testimony is Brenda Kuzan, and Brenda will be followed by Teresa Westerdahl.
You're not speaking?
Okay, so, Teresa.
The cops are always calling out. Do I look like a violent person?
Hi, I'm Teresa Westerdahl. I live on Sullivan Place. I live very close to this project. I walk by here probably 4 or 5 times a day. I drive by here, I bike by here. The urban blight is false. The developer, or whoever owns that building, is not taking care of it. The Department of Sanitation has a weekly cleanup here because they're not taking care of their property. I am very concerned about this being made into, rather than as a right would be okay. You know, we want commercial there. We want the residents on the other side. There's another development on the same block that is done as a right, and it's good. It's going to be good, I think. This should do that as well. Not take over the residential. The shadows is very serious. You know, this is Jackie Robinson's legacy. What do you think Jackie Robinson was going to say, putting this huge building there? Nobody is going to be able to live there from our community. All these developments that are going up, and we have thousands of new houses coming. Do you think anybody that lives in our neighborhood is going to be able to afford it? Very few people are going to be able to live there. You know, we want low-cost housing there, and in the back along Sullivan, commercial on the front. And I'm very concerned about the other development, even though they did as of right. The street was collapsed 4 times. We had a giant hole open up because of the way they're doing the development. Is that going to happen here? Probably. So I'm sure it will.
No
you know?
sewage upgrades.
So I'm opposed to this, and I do. By the way, I was picked by Reynoso to serve on Community Board 9, and I'm on the ULURP committee, the Land Use Committee. So I know what I'm talking about, but I feel very insulted that I found out Reynoso said that about community boards and doesn't care what we have to say because we don't count in the broad spectrum of things. So I'm sad about that. Thank you for listening to my testimony, everyone, and thank you for coming. I know it's cold out.
Thank you for your testimony. This exhausts our written list. Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this item?
Can I say something else? If nobody else wants to speak.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Listen, Teresa made me think about something. She talked about...
The mic, so people can hear you at home.
Teresa made me think about something real quick. Just a piece of history. She mentioned Jackie Robinson, right? It didn't start with Jackie Robinson there at the Sphere. It started with the Brooklyn Eagles in 1933 to 36, where black clubs were playing baseball at the Sphere when the white ball club, the Brooklyn Trolley Dodgers, were on location. Back to when Empire Boulevard was, I want to say it was called Emerson Street, right? And they had a big trolley car accident. It literally spilled, and there was blood in the street. It was cobblestone, and they decided to literally just change it and pave it and change the name to Empire Boulevard because it was too emotional for people. Fast forward, just a few years later, in 44 to 46, you had the Brooklyn Brown Dodgers that played there. So this is all like pre-World War II, little after World War II, pre-Jackie Robinson, black players were playing at the Sphere, and people were starting to come into a community and build community. Even going back to when Bedford Avenue was called Automobile Road, from where the Atlantic Avenue shelter is by Bedford Avenue, all the way south up over Eastern Parkway down to Empire Boulevard. All of that was all automobile stores, service centers, and then you had the dealerships along Empire Boulevard and one dealership on President Street across from the major Olin Center, now the Armory. You had one Chrysler dealership right there on President and Bedford Avenue, and then you had another dealership, Studebaker, on the corner of Sterling Place and Bedford Avenue. That's the history of our neighborhood. That's part of the history of our neighborhood. Even the shuttle train was for us white people who were wealthy to be able to get to Prospect Park and not have to use their own traffic until they couldn't handle it anymore to sell it to the city. So we have a history that is there, that is robust, and to not have the representation of our electeds to help protect us after you were duly voted into office, it's just unacceptable. Thank you.
Thank you. So hearing no further comment, this item is now closed. Now we're going to, please call the third item.
Calendar item number 3, Atlantic Avenue Mixed Use Plan, also known as AMA. A public application by the Department of City Planning for an area-wide plan to support housing and job growth along Atlantic Avenue between Vanderbilt Avenue and Nostrand Avenue in Community Districts 3 and 8, with the neighborhoods of Crown Heights, within the neighborhoods of Crown Heights, Bedford-Stuyvesant, and Prospect Heights. The proposed actions consist of zoning map amendments, zoning text amendments, UDAP designations, acquisitions, and disposition of property by the city. On December 2nd, Community Board 3 voted to approve the project with the conditions that the applicant, 1, reduce the maximum height of the buildings to 12 stories, 2, renovate and upgrade all parks and open spaces within a half-mile of AMA and encourage privately owned public spaces, 3, prioritize street safety and roadway improvements along the Fulton Street corridor, 4, prioritize attracting a diverse mix of business types that offer a range of jobs and workforce development opportunities. On December 12th, Community Board 8 voted to approve the project with the conditions that the applicant, 1, fund a consultant to act as a facilitator of a community body that will oversee the city's delivery of benefits, 2, regarding the 1.1 FAR bonus, require that 0.5 FAR is restricted to light industrial, arts, cultural, or civic uses, 3, modify the zoning in the proposed M1 4A 9 R9A district to M1 4A R8A. Condition number 4, in the proposed R7D district, require 100% affordable housing, or applicable zoning shall be R6A instead. Condition number 5, require that lots in the special Atlantic Avenue mixed-use district that are greater than 20,000 square feet with tenants conforming to M11 zoning usage, if redeveloped, must contain floor area restricted to M11. Number 6, deepen the MIH affordability requirements beyond options 1 and 2, and have an average of 25% AMI on sites to be developed by HPD. Number 7, establish a tenant protection fund to offer free representation for Community District 8 tenants. 8, establish a registry of tenants facing displacement pressure in the AMOB study area and offer the registered tenants preference for affordable housing lotteries. 9, provide workforce development, apprenticeship, and career development opportunities. 10, offer displacement warnings and relocation funds for local businesses. 11, create a comprehensive plan for the street network in AMOB that creates safer crossings of Atlantic Avenue, a more walkable environment, and improved bus travel. Please state your name and present this application.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jonah Rokoff, and I'm a team leader in the Department of City Planning Construction Office.
Jonah, can you just try your best to speak?
Speak a little louder.
Because
Oh.
we're going to try to have the mic even though it's more difficult on TV. We want everybody to hear.
How is this? Is this better? Okay, great. So I just to quickly repeat, my name is Jonah Rokoff, a team leader in the Brooklyn office of the Department of City Planning. I'm also joined by Jesse Hirkawa, who is the co-project lead with me at DCP, and Suri Plotkin, the Director of Neighborhood Planning at the Department of Housing Preservation and Development. We're also joined by a few other colleagues at DCP, but as well as Department of Small Business Services and Department of Transportation. So we're really excited to be here tonight to present the Atlantic Avenue Mixed-Use Plan, otherwise known as AMA. It's a plan to re-envision an industrially zoned area in central Brooklyn that's transit-rich, We'll go into a little more details, but as a quick summary, it's a proposal to promote housing and job growth while also improving infrastructure and other various community-based priorities as part of that neighborhood-wide holistic plan. In total, we project AMUP would create about 4,600 new homes, 1,440 of which would be permanently affordable, and then in addition, over 800,000 square feet of space for commercial, light industrial, community facility uses, which we estimate to be about 2,800 new jobs. Very quickly, AMUP is in part of central Brooklyn, which sits at the nexus between Crown Heights, Clinton Hill, Bed-Stuy, and Prospect Heights. Roughly bounded by Vanderbilt Avenue to the west, Nostrand Avenue to the east, and it includes two non-contiguous areas. On the west, by one area by Dean and Bergen Street, and another area at Girls High School at 457 Nostrand Avenue. It's primarily within Community District 8, south of Atlantic. Community District 3 has a smaller portion on the northern side of Atlantic, and roughly covers about 21 blocks. So how did we get here? This has been a long process, and I see some folks from the AMUP steering committee here and part of CBA, which is wonderful. This is a project that's been many years in the making, over 10 years, really driven by CB8's M-Crown plan and the efforts there. In 2022, in response to a call for a neighborhood-wide plan, the city committed to advance planning efforts, and then in 2023, we did a fair amount of outreach, and then later that year released a report in collaboration with the steering committee, which kind of set forth a number of priorities. And then over the past year or so, we've been working to advance many of the technical parts of the application, including a land use application with zoning, as well as a draft environmental impact statement, as well as just working collaboratively with other agencies to advance a number of priorities that we heard from the community. So now we're in the midst of the 7th-month ULURP process, the Borough Presidents review, and just excited to be here after many years in this process. I just want to step back for a moment and just say that one of the driving forces behind our work here, as I said, is around a neighborhood-wide holistic plan. There's been a tremendous crisis that we've seen with a need for housing of all types in the neighborhood, affordable, market rate, service to the local neighborhood. Much of the areas around AMUP, with the exception of Atlantic Yards or Pacific Park site, have been contextually rezoned, which has been incredibly important for preserving brownstones and the low-rise character that we all know and love. But at the same time, it's added a tremendous amount of pressure, and so that's increased calls for thinking about Atlantic Avenue, which is a 120-wide-foot corridor, as an appropriate place to accommodate some growth for a mix of housing, not just affordable housing, but also jobs and other types of new uses. Since 2019, the AMUP areas had 7 private rezoning applications, which I just want to note too has been another driving force where we've seen these one-off piecemeal applications, but as a city, we heard a need for thinking more comprehensively in a way that looks at the whole area, incorporates environmental review, that broadens engagement beyond individual sites, and that leverages a neighborhood plan in a way that we're not just changing the zoning, but doing it in a way that includes capital funding and infrastructure improvements. So these are just a few photos of the outreach we did in 2023, which included larger workshops, but also topic-based working groups, some of which we did in collaboration with the agency partners who are here today. And then to quickly note, we heard loud and clear a few priorities from the community. First and foremost, was a need to promote, preserve and create more affordable housing, just given the chronic need in the area. But also recognize Atlantic Avenue as a location that can accommodate some growth. We also heard that we're not just changing the zoning, but we need to do it in a way that supports the street network, that addresses the safety needs of Atlantic Avenue, being a corridor that's primarily for through traffic or freight, but can often divide the neighborhood, especially. It can be really challenging for pedestrians or bicyclists crossing the street. And then we also heard a need for promoting jobs, not just doing that through zoning, but thinking innovatively with programs that promote training and address the specific local needs for many residents in the neighborhood. And then specifically looking at Bedford Atlantic Armory as a large city-owned facility, which serves an incredibly important function as a shelter, but also has some space within it that could maybe better serve community. For example, it's like a workforce training or other types of uses. So now I'm going to pass it over to my colleague Jesse to touch on that neighborhood plan.
Thank you, John. And so really building upon the MCrown vision from Community Ward 8 and the Community Vision Report that was on the previous slide, this neighborhood plan really introduces a new framework, opportunities for capital and programmatic investments, and also expands on the project area to create opportunities for more income-restricted affordable housing opportunities beyond MIH on publicly owned land. And so to support this, and as John mentioned, we partner with several sister agencies to develop commitments for housing preservation, tenant protection, streetscape safety, and also workforce development. And so the plan also features innovative zoning tools to incentivize job growth. Incentivize job growth, urban design guidelines for Atlantic Avenue, and the first public space bonus expansion that's outside of a business district. And so on top of the previously stated 24 million investments at St. Andrews Playground, the city is also advancing immediate safety improvements along Atlantic Avenue through a partnership with DOT, which we previously had announced back in October at our certification, which involves neck downs, crosswalks, and working refreshments and day walking. And so to achieve this, our goals and strategies we're promoting to propose a zoning map change, transitioning the underlying M11 zoning into 5 distinct density areas along Atlantic Avenue. We see as a commercial corridor that can allow housing as well at a C6 through 8 density, moving to the north-south avenues like Grand, Classen, and Bedford Avenue. We're proposing to have a step down a bit to R7D/M13A to serve as more of a transition from Atlantic Avenue and a connector between the two neighborhoods across Atlantic Avenue. On the mid-block areas in a light orange, which would step down to an R6A/M12A, that density that aligns with the existing concept for the mid-block. The residential only areas are in yellow. Those are designed to maximize affordable housing opportunities, particularly on publicly owned lands. And finally, in the purple, that is where we have the Bedford Armory, which is proposing an M13A zoning district, which will allow the existing use to thrive while accommodating potential future needs. And so, as one of the few 120-foot wide streets in Brooklyn, Atlantic Avenue offers a unique opportunity to support high-density housing with ground floor uses that enhance the streetscape, such as commercial and community facility uses. And to improve the pedestrian experience, we're proposing to mandate active ground floor uses, breaking up building facades for articulation, but also setting back the buildings, mandating the new development setback to create essentially a wider sidewalk. And so, we're not proposing to remove the lane of traffic. So the special district aims to address concerns on height by requiring active ground floors with transparency standards, setting back street walls, setting the street wall back to create wider sidewalks, and mandate facade articulation. Additionally, it's incentivizing much needed open space, allowing opportunities to really break up the buildings, but also provide new views and high quality public spaces. Moving on to the next area, Grand, Classen, Franklin, and Bedford Avenues, which are important connectors across Atlantic Avenue, really to provide opportunities for local services and amenities in the commercial or community facility uses. And really, along these corridors, we're seeking to encourage, actually mandating mixed-use developments with a variety of non-residential uses to support job growth with residential above. And in the mid-block areas, the last area that I'll talk to is comprised areas south of Atlantic Avenue, between Grant, Classen, and Franklin, the 3 blocks along Pacific, Dean, and Bergen Street, as well as Herkimer Place. As mentioned earlier, these areas have less foot traffic with a mix of like parking, storage, and kind of warehouse-style buildings, and so we're proposing a mix of uses, height and density appropriate for the kind of size smaller street densities, while incentivizing and the creation of a mixed-use development with a variety of non-residential and job-supporting needs. So we'll hand it off to Suri.
Okay. So yeah, we heard through the process that tenants and homeowners are really feeling the pressure of rising housing costs and the shortage of available homes, and we have multiple strategies to keep housing stable and affordable in the AMUP area. Our work primarily falls into 2 buckets: creating new affordable homes and preserving existing affordable homes. But before we start, I just want to make sure everyone knows that when we say affordable, we mean that someone is spending no more than 30% of their income on rent, and that all housing that we'll be discussing today, or all affordable housing that we'll be discussing today, is both rent stabilized, meaning that you're protected from sudden significant rent increases, and income restricted, so you qualify based on your income. So most of the new affordable housing in the AMUP area, actually over 1,000 units, will be part of mixed income buildings on private sites that are required through the Mandatory Inclusionary Housing Program, or MIH. In rezoning areas like AMUP, in exchange for higher density, the city mandates that 20 to 30% of units are set aside for permanently rent-stabilized homes that are marketed through HPD's housing lottery. Rent and income levels vary depending on which MIH option is selected. For example, option 1 requires that 25% of the units are affordable, an average of 60% of area median income, or $80,000 for a family of 3. So, in addition to mandatory inclusionary housing, the city is, going beyond MIH to build more deeply affordable housing on public sites. We have 6 public sites at various stages of redevelopment planning. The first 2 to note are Dean and Bergen Streets, HPD sites that underwent minority and women-owned business enterprise RFP in 2021, and that's by Flatbush and 6th Avenue. There's 1024 Fulton Street, a state-owned site that's proposing 100% affordable housing. 1134 Pacific Street, a previously city-owned site that's being redeveloped by a nonprofit, and 1110 Atlantic, as well as 457 Nostrand, that are sites owned by other government agencies that we're in discussions about the affordable housing potential for. So the first site I'll discuss is Dean Park Edge. This is an HPD site that would include 151 affordable homes for older New Yorkers that earn up to 50% of the area median income. So for example, apartments would rent for $13.50 for a studio or $14.50 for a 1-bedroom at 50% at the max. This project would have 3,000 square feet of on-site social services and amenity space, as well as 2,000 square feet of new publicly accessible open space that connects Dean Street to Bergen Street. The next project, Bergen Green, around the block, proposes 11 and 11-story mixed-use building with 111 affordable homes through HPD's extremely low and low-income affordability program. 2/3 of the units in this project would be between 30 and 60% of the area median income. So rents would be between $1,200 to $1,750 for a 1-bedroom, for example. And this project would include approximately 5,000 square feet of multi-purpose cultural arts and recreation space, as well as 23 parking spaces in the cellar for HPD code inspection vehicles. 1134 Pacific Street is a previously city-owned vacant 19,000 square foot site that was disposed by the city to a nonprofit in the 1980s to facilitate a rehab project. HPD is now working with Acacia Network, a social service provider and affordable housing developer, to reactivate the site. We're proposing a site-specific acquisition and disposition actions to allow HPD to reacquire the site, remove a deed restriction, and then transfer the site back to Acacia to build affordable housing. 1110 Atlantic is a 26,000 square foot lot that's owned by the city and leased to the New York City Transit Authority. It currently has a cable repair shop and storage for the MTA adjacent to the Franklin Avenue shuttle. The city is proposing acquisition and disposition actions to allow for future redevelopment, and we're in discussions with the MTA about affordable housing opportunities here. And then last but not least, 457 Nostrand is a 30,000 square foot parking lot owned by the Department of Education adjacent to the Brooklyn Adult Learning Center. The Learning Center would remain on site, and we're exploring redevelopment of the parking lot adjacent to it. The proposal is to rezone it to R72 and dispose of the site for affordable housing to facilitate 200 affordable homes and 18,000 square feet of community facility space for New York City Public Schools. We're working closely with the Landmarks Preservation Commission, given that this site is within the Bedford Historic District and would require future landmarks preservation design review. Okay, so moving on to affordable housing preservation, some of our major housing goals for this project are preventing displacement and harassment. And one of the key projects or key initiatives that I want to highlight is Partners in Preservation, HPD's new anti-displacement program that would include a $3 million commitment for Central Brooklyn. It would fund local Central Brooklyn community-based organizations to combat landlord harassment and support tenant organizing and coalition building in rent-regulated buildings in the area. There's also been a big call to fund legal services to hold landlords accountable for harassment, and there's been $7 million that has been reinstated for the anti-harassment and tenant protection program. We also have a range of educational programs for tenants that we're developing, know your rights trainings, resource fairs, classes, and clinics. And then for homeowners, another major goal of the study has been, to prevent displacement of low-income homeowners. One of our key strategies here is the city's renewed investment in the $10 million citywide help desk, homeowner help desk. This is a one-stop shop for homeowners that are facing foreclosure, tax liens, deed theft, and maintenance issues. We're also going to offer a range of classes and resources for homeowners around these same issues, as well as making sure there's increased access and awareness of HPD's new online resource, a guide of all of HPD's programs and resources for homeowners that are in one place, the guide for New York City homeowners. And that is it for housing, and I think that's it for our presentation overall.
Thank you. We have a few questions for you. First, how has this proposal evolved since it began as M-Crown?
So as we said, in 2022, we agreed to advance the neighborhood plan. I would say that first, we're really grateful for all the work that we've done with Community Board 8 over the years. I think we heard that there's a great need for affordable housing. So one of the key, I would say, ways that it evolved was working with our partners at HPD and really looking broadly beyond the M-Crown area for ways that we can both really drive the effort to promote and create new affordable housing. So that's partly why we slightly expanded the area in the geography. I would say from a process standpoint, the other way it's evolved was because CBA was really leading the effort with M-Crown, we wanted to, working with elected officials, wanted to be sure that the broader community is involved and do it in a very inclusive process. So we broadened engagement with, also including not just CB3, but also CB2 as well. And so AIM Up is kind of an effort to really making sure that the process is as inclusive as possible. And then I would say lastly, M-Crown was really geared towards zoning changes, specifically ways of promoting manufacturing. But we, as part of a neighborhood plan process, we also wanted to bring in other agencies and look more holistically at capital, programmatic, and other ways of supporting a neighborhood plan. So I would say those are kind of the three major ways it's evolved. But that being said, I would say that CB, and I can looking directly at Keep Community, and like they've really been a consistent presence in leading this process, despite the change in name during month. So I just want to make sure that's on the record as well.
Thank you. Considering MX District's difficulties in achieving mixed-use projects that include industrial manufacturing, has DCP considered designating specific lots for industrial use?
So I would say, taking a step back, we have tried to craft a plan that supports jobs as much as possible and really embodies a mix of uses. So from a zoning standpoint, we are requiring non-residential uses on not only Atlantic Avenue, but also the north-south corridors. We're also including an innovative zoning tool to incentivize 1 and 2 floors of it could be commercial, community facility, or light industrial uses. And then we're also looking at specific sites like the Armory, as Jesse said, where we see opportunities for promoting like a workforce center and public sites as well. And then working with specific stakeholders like Greenpoint Manufacturing Design Center, or GMDC, which has interest in mixing residential and industrial. I would just say broadly, there are many challenges with mixing industrial with residential. From a zoning perspective, it's really difficult to meet certain environmental rules. And so we want to work, as part of our special district, we included text to better facilitate that mix, provided that, we want to do it in a safe way that, ensures that if there is industrial with residential, either next to each other in the same building, it's done in a way that, doesn't negatively affect those residents. And so we're definitely interested in it. It's an evolving conversation, but I would say broadly, if there are businesses that want, or developers that are interested in industrial, we're very much interested in facilitating that. And so that's partly the effort with GMDC and others.
What improvements, if any, are planned to improve incremental capacity constraints and pedestrian flow of nearby subway stations?
So first, as part of our environmental review, we did a very detailed analysis of possible impacts on pedestrian flow on subway stations. We did not find that the density proposed would result in an impact on individual stations.
That 10,000 people is going to have an impact.
That being said, we did find that the capacity is an issue, and there was an impact related to that, so that more subway cars would have to be run approximately 2 cars during peak periods, meaning the AM and PM rush hour, to fully mitigate that impact. We're working with MTA to see how we can do that. Due to the reinstatement of congestion pricing, there's some positive news that we've heard that could result in more funding to enhance the signal system along the AC line, which can enable the MTA to run more trains. So we're also looking at ways of improving the Franklin Avenue Steve Station, which I know has been a priority for Councilmember Chiose. So short answer is that we're definitely aware of it, and we want to do what we can to address this. Yeah.
Thank you. Were manufacturing uses considered for the Bedford Armory?
Yes, absolutely. So that's one of the reasons why we're proposing a manufacturing district for that site, and we're open to manufacturing, but also a variety of uses that serve the community. We kind of want to be flexible at the moment because we don't know all the physical constraints with the Armory. It's a very old building. It's a landmark. So we're kind of at the early stage of trying to assess the Armory itself, and then also do it in a way that can be co-located with the men's homeless shelter, which serves an incredibly important function for the entire city.
Thank you. Are there any financial incentives for industrial development planned in concert with zoning changes?
I would say, not directly as part of AIMA, but we believe that the IDA, or for those, really it's city's industrial development agency, provides, or I would say reviews grants, tax incentives, other benefits for businesses. So we think that our zoning would pair well with those incentives. So any businesses or organizations like GMBC would certainly benefit from those. And so we think that that AIMA really complements those efforts and will help businesses qualify and benefit from those incentives.
Thank you. Why were the newly approved growth districts approved here, and is this corridor exemplary of M1A districts in general?
So we were very careful in choosing a growth district for the general public or those listening. Those are the M1 districts. The reason why we selected those was because those first pair well for residential, so just the regulations complement each other well. The other reason is that M1 districts are meant for more transit-oriented areas that are better connected to residential, not being in like industrial business zones or heavy industrial areas. And then we also thought the M1 reflected well the uses that were there. I mean, the area is also currently M1. So for all those reasons, we were very thoughtful in selecting that district.
Thank you. And last question, you touched on it during the presentation with the intersections and daylighting. Why are additional streetscape improvements not discussed as part of this proposal?
Good question.
Yeah, so I think initially we talked about this street improvement or related safety. The reason why we're not looking at kind of additional larger ones, I think someone had mentioned, like lane removals, we're not considering that kind of this larger redesign yet because there's an ongoing environmental impact study going on, right? And so we have that's examining the existing conditions and how the proposed zoning will impact the existing conditions. So if there is, depending on what the impact is, when that final environmental impact statement is released, that is when kind of in conversations with the council members and Borough President and kind of all the stakeholders is when that larger discussion is kind of determined from City Council and the city on how we want to kind of address that. And if there is going to be kind of more improvements or more modifications, that's something that will have to go through an additional or separate kind of analysis and a separate kind of study. But that is not something we're proposing right now. That's why we're focusing on the immediate need of like safety improvements for all users on Atlantic Avenue, and that's why that looks at kind of those street improvements in terms of like painting and like rollouts and daylighting.
Cosmetic changes.
Did you mention a timeline?
I'm sorry?
A timeline on that, when you expect that study to be wrapped up?
For which timeline?
For the existing study.
Well, the final EIS, the final environmental impact statement should be concluded in March.
March 7th.
Yeah, March 7th.
This year?
Yes. And that impacts that environmental impact study has been going on for, there's a mandated time period right throughout the year, things like 7 to 9 months mandated to look at the existing conditions, right? Everything sanitation, school, and all the environmental stuff that's required.
Thank you. All of our questions and you can be excused. I will now call for testimony on this application from members of the public in attendance tonight. Please note that all comments are limited to 2 minutes.
Great, so first we'll have Mimi Mitchell, followed by Sarah Luber. Okay, for the record, Sarah Lazur, followed by Mimi Mitchell.
Hi, good evening. My name is Sarah Lazar, and I am a member of the Crown Heights Tenant Union and also an appointed member of Community Board 8. And I'm here to talk about displacement risk with this rezoning and the kinds of defenses that we actually need. And things that are not covered by the plan that the city envisions, right? I wanted to remind the borough president while he was here, you might remember from his city council days, right to counsel for tenants facing eviction was passed as the political price for mandatory inclusionary housing, because everybody recognized at that time that rezonings lead to displacement pressures, right? And these specific zip codes, this specific area was facing many, many rezonings and a lot of displacement pressure. That's why these zip codes got part of right to counsel first. Since just 2020, right, we've had almost 6,000 new eviction cases in just the 2 zip codes in this area. Wow. And the representation rate for tenants in New York City Housing Court is between 30 and 50%, right? So, about 60% of people go unrepresented, and if defense costs $7,500, defending all those people who are facing eviction just in the last 4 years would have cost $26 million. So I believe that $3 million annually is really important. And it's important that it's not just, that it's beyond right to counsel. It is not just defensive, but also affirmative work. Because even tenants who are rent stabilized face displacement from when their landlords try to deregulate their apartment based on substantial rehabilitation claims that are bogus, demolition plans, and tenants in this area are already facing those kinds of fights, and they are completely unrepresented when they're fighting this at the DHCR level, right? So it's affirmative and defensive work, and $3 million annually. It is essential, if you're going to do this rezoning anyway, because the city wants to do it, it is crucial that you not leave us defenseless. Thank you. Thank you.
Next we have Mimi Mitchell.
Good evening, my name is Mimi Mitchell. I serve on Community Board 8 as a member. I am also a member of CHTU, Crown Heights Tenant Union. I've also been a volunteer advocate and activist for the last 10 years or so, working with Legal Hand and working within the Crown Heights community. I'm here tonight because, as Sarah said, representation in court is the biggest thing that our tenants are facing and having an issue with. We've got resource fairs, as HPD just told us, and we've got tenant resource centers and all of these things. Our tenants are educated. Our tenants know when something's wrong. The problem is that they are not able to assert their rights in court on their own. They need assistance. So if we really, really want to talk about displacement, which, by the way, Jonah, you did not mention displacement in your 3 big important things. You said affordable housing, but you totally did not mention displacement. And that is the biggest thing that we're facing in this neighborhood. Just as the gentleman said earlier, these are people who elected these officials. These are people who have actually created this neighborhood to make it so desirable. These are people who have kept it going all of these years. What protection are we really, really giving them? What are we really doing for them?
Nothing.
Absolutely. Seems like nothing, especially when, as Sarah showed us, the rate of eviction in the surrounding areas has gone up significantly since AMUP has been introduced to the area. So, I mean, you don't have to be a brain surgeon to figure out the cause and effect, right? So if we know that this is the cause, then why don't we fight it? And why aren't we fighting it? And my question really is, what is the city going to do? What is HPD going to do? What is Anthony Reynoso going to do to further protect our tenants? We are seriously being harassed. My building itself is going through a sub-rehabilitation. Guess what? 40 years ago is when the sub-rehab happened. But guess what? Allegedly. Yes, thank you. Allegedly. 40 years ago. And I, as a tenant, right, who has a full-time job, has a family, has all of that, am supposed to somehow have the resources to go ahead and figure my way through this maze of a 40-year-old sub-rehabilitation, which, by the way, my landlord has one of the biggest attorney firms in the city representing them. But me and the rest of... I'm sorry?
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your testimony.
I'm not done. Me, I'm supposed to actually sit there and be able to figure this out. Where is the help for that? And where is... It's okay, someone's seating me their minutes. Don't worry, hon. Where is the help for that? How are you going to help me?
Accept testimony in writing until Friday if you would like to submit more, but we do have...
No, I was really I really wanted the answers now, today, or at least some type of...
I'm sorry. It's really important that we get through everyone who needs to testify this evening.
That's not a problem. By the way, while I'm here though, where is Mr. Reynoso? Where is he, by the way? Like, I noticed that he left after the Empire stuff, but he's not here for this.
Thank you so much. We need to call the next.
Sure, but did you want to answer that question for me?
So the next speaker will be Gabe Fagoni, followed
That's
by Isla Woodard.
Yeah, okay.
Good evening, my name is Gabe Fagoni, and as Jonah pointed out before, I am a member of Community Board 8, and I've been involved in kind of facilitating the M-Crown process for the last 10 years, but tonight I'm here in my role with the Prospect Heights Neighborhood Development Council. If I do have some time at the end, I might return to the question of the evolution of M-Crown to AIM-UP that you asked before, and I would also like to clarify one of the characterizations you made of the Community Board 8 conditions. But with respect to the lots in Prospect Heights that are proposed for R7D zoning on blocks 1136 and 1143, we find that the R7D zoning is not a strong fit with the surrounding context in that it permits height even greater than the Newswalk building at 535 Dean Street and the Peter F. Riley Storage Warehouse at 491 Bergen Street. However, we support the creation of affordable housing for families and seniors on the HPD sites in that area and are supportive of increasing density on those lots to R7D. We would also support other lots rezoned at R7D if they had 100% affordable housing on them, but lots that simply are redeveloped for affordable housing under MIH should be rezoned to R6A instead. I would like to also state that we believe MIH options 1 and 2 should be removed from this application such that all of the rezoning areas should be mapped for the deep affordability option MIH 3. And we want to echo Community Board 8's call for the Department of Housing Preservation and Development to create a new class of lottery preference to allow persons displaced from Community Board 8 preference for 50% of the affordable apartments created in buildings developed areas rezoned under AIM-UP. This was something, I don't think your characterization of this condition captured that correctly. Community Board 8 is actually calling for a new class of preference for people who have been displaced from Community Board 8 to be able to move back in. Community District 8 has one of the highest displacement rates in New York City, and this represents an opportunity for displaced people to move back into the community district. I also, if you can just give me 1 second, I wanted to address your question about the evolution of M-Crown to AIM-UP. In February of 2018, the Department of City Planning proposed a zoning framework for AIM-UP. And between that time and the zoning that's proposed for, in 2018, that was an M-Crown framework. The AIM-UP framework that came out in 2023 removed the vast majority of manufacturing square footage from the zoning plan and replaced it with higher density residential. So today, the AIM-UP rezoning really represents a residential upzoning of a manufacturing area. And that's one of the reasons why use restrictions for that incentive space are so important, so we can get manufacturing back into the space. Thank you very much.
So next is Tyler Woodard.
My name is Kaya Kuhl, and I'm a member of the Prospect Heights Neighborhood Development Council, and I'm also a resident in the rezoning area, or adjacent to the rezoning area. I want to urge the board president to make it a condition of his approval of this rezoning that the administration commits funds, significant funds, to plan for and implement improvements to open spaces and streetscapes, specifically on Atlantic Avenue, and convert Atlantic Avenue into a green boulevard. The completion of Atlantic Yard specific part and the anticipated development here in the AMOP rezoning will add more than 15,000 residents to the northern portion of Prospect Heights by 2035. This area already has a significant shortage of open space, as was found in the draft areas. Atlantic Avenue between Flatbush and Bedford Avenue, however, constitutes 19 acres of publicly owned land. Currently, 80% of that is occupied by vehicles. We believe, or we would like to suggest, that in a redesign, the administration considers at least 50% of that right-of-way should prioritize people and nature. While this might not generate the typical park, it can provide safe and healthy walking and biking environments for current and future residents, working cyclists, and much-needed curb infrastructure. According to the Department of Health statistics, air pollution in New York City causes an estimated 2,400 deaths per year. This is due to pollutants like fine particulate matter and ozone, both primarily derived from high volumes of vehicular traffic. And this by far outnumbers the city's annual fatality rate from direct traffic accidents. So prioritizing green space is not just a nice to have, it's an absolute necessity to save lives and to mitigate the impact of climate change in this area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So next, we will have David Knowles, followed by Jim Search.
Good evening all, my name is Joe Gonzalez, I'm a resident of Brooklyn. Listening to the presentation of officialdom, I don't know whether to laugh or to cry. The deficits in the presentation are rank obscenity. We're told that there's consideration for manufacturing in this region. Will someone tell city officials almost every manufacturing plant has relocated out of New York? They're in other states, they're in other countries. So I, for the life of me, don't know how you're gonna put a manufacturing plant inside the armory. I mean, that's laughable. Do we look stupid? That's even something that can be mentioned in a public forum? Point to me, if you can, name one manufacturing plant in central Brooklyn, because I don't know of any. Now we're also hearing, we didn't hear from officialdom, but we're hearing this in the community, we may lose a traffic lane on Atlantic Avenue. We might be getting a protected bike lane, who knows? But even if we don't get either of those, a loss of a traffic lane via a widened sidewalk or a protected bike lane for the bicycle lobby, we have to ask ourselves, this plan will undoubtedly bring in a very large number of construction vehicles, which will block traffic, causing untold amount of traffic vehicles, to detour to side streets, transferring Atlantic Avenue's traffic problem to side streets. Atlantic Avenue was designed to be the east-west thoroughfare in Brooklyn. What happens if 5,000 cars showed up on Pacific Street or Dean Street or Bergen or St. Mark's? Again, not a word from officialdom. I'm also concerned about the fact that this construction of redevelopment of Atlantic Avenue will bring in undoubtedly thousands, potentially 15,000 more people into that area. Existing subway stations are already severely overcrowded, and we're told it's MTA. Did we hear that right? We'll add 1 or 2 more cars to each subway train. We'll alleviate 15,000 people. That is a rank absurdity to suggest that the many thousands of new people in this district won't have a problem. To your question about potential overcrowding, you didn't get an answer because there is no answer. We're looking at right now, I'm almost afraid to go in subway stations. The severe overcrowding every morning, it's a wonder that more and more people don't end up on the tracks.
Thank you so
So
much.
that's something to be
Appreciate your
considered.
testimony.
Thank you and have a good evening all.
Thank you.
Next is Jim Search, followed by Catherine Musello. Are either Jim or Catherine here?
Some people left early.
Then next we'll have Loretto Domitrescu. And then there's someone else who signed up from PHNDC. I can't quite make out the name, but if someone else from that organization signed up to speak, you are next. Okay. Okay.
I'll come to the front and write my name down.
Hi, so my name is Laura Dumitrescu. I'm a longtime resident of Prospect Heights and also a member of UNPCH and PHNDC. I'm trying to get connected. I'm very sad that Reynoso is still not here because I really wanted to listen to the C8. Yeah, a lot of time was spent really trying to listen to the community, listen to people, and a lot of the amendments that were made are really important. I really think that there needs to be serious collaboration between all DOT, sanitation, and DP, especially with implementing SIPs. I see lots of planters sitting on top of grates with leaves on them. Sometimes they're bike racks mounted onto the grates. And so the street sweepers can't come and clean up all the leaves, and then we get overflooding. So I would like that addressed. I really like shared data and findings and full transparency of everything that happens. This plan is very vague, so it would be really great if the community can have all the data without filling foils and having to knock on doors. Sorry, I don't like public speaking. Also, I lived off the C train. It sucks. Really, really sucks. This is not a transit-rich community. I'm looking forward to that impact study. And also, I'm not sure if this is the plan, but it seems like it's also going to touch on transportation. I ride the B65 every day in both directions, and it's critical for people to ride on that line. So, okay.
Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you. This exhausts all of our written signups. Is there anyone else that would like to testify on this item? Sure. Just make sure to restate your name into the record. Thank you.
Good night. My name is Dion Michael Ashman once again. It's more of a question that I have. When we look at the EMO, and I read some documentation where there were 63 businesses that were just removed, that have to relocate or just have to move. And I saw the metric that showed that there was about 20.2 people. I didn't know there was a 0.2 person, like human being walking around. I didn't understand that. But there's 20.2 people that would be removed. How do you get 20.2? And if those are the workers and people who live in the area, you're not taking into consideration, because also in the metric it said that you have to be more than like 400 people or 500 people to be considered worthy of not doing this, right? Maybe I got the language wrong. But you're not taking into consideration the families that are being affected. For argument's sake, just to say that each worker has a family of 3, and there's 63 businesses that have been removed. That's not 20.2. And who knows, it could be bigger than that. Probably not smaller, probably bigger. This is Brooklyn we're talking about, in New York City. So I just really want to know who greenlighted this, because I love the work that Community Board 8 did in committee. with the 25 conditions that they came up with. Who's here from Community Board 8? Raise your hand. You all putting I see you, Jim. I see you. Raise your hand. Raise your hand.
We're not here as.
It doesn't matter. You on Community Board 8. We all know that. Stop that nonsense. All right? Here we go. They did incredible work that should have actually been done by elected officials.
Yeah.
So I give you all kudos for doing the work. But now what you have to do is you have to hold elected officials accountable, because some of those items there on your 25 conditions, like what you talked about, Sarah, with the help in housing court, and also funds that are going to last like a decade, and even the revisions that you made on the spot at your last meeting when everything was approved, you have to hold them like literally to the fire, because they have to be in a position where they have the appetite to fight for them.
Thank you so much for your testimony.
Is there anyone else that would like to testify on this item?
Hearing no further comment, this item is now closed. This ULURP public hearing is also closed. The Borough President will review these applications and submit his recommendation to the City Planning Commission, which will hold its hearing on these items at a later date. As a reminder, members of the public may submit comments to testimony at brooklynvp.nyc.gov for the Borough President's consideration until Friday, January 17th. The meeting is now adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
What time is the, on the 17th, what time is the?
End of day.